born into the cartel. You never had a choice about who your father was, what your last name meant, or what world you were stepping into the moment you took your first breath. This is not a story about glory or power. It is a story about what it actually costs to live inside a life that was decided for you before you could speak. Here is what that life looks like, piece by piece from the beginning. The birth. You arrive in a private clinic where your father has reserved an entire section of the building. Armed guards stand at every entrance. The doctor attending to you earns more from this single delivery than he would across most of the year. Outside the room, men celebrate with expensive bottles of champagne. Within days, a song carrying your name already plays on radio stations across the northern states. You are 4 days old and already famous in circles that most people would spend a lifetime trying to avoid. The childhood home. You grow up on a sprawling estate that functions less like a house and more like a small private village. There is a chapel, sports courts, stables filled with high-breed horses, and an aviary stocked with exotic birds purchased at private auctions. Teachers travel to you rather than you going to school. The only children around you are the sons and daughters of men who work for your father. They treat you differently because they understand exactly what your last name represents, even if you are still figuring it out yourself. The permanent guards. From the time you are old enough to form memories, there are always men around. Men with radios clipped to their belts. Men with firearms tucked beneath loose shirts. Men who stand straighter whenever your father walks through a door. By the time you are 7, these men are already calling you young sir. Their presence is so consistent that their absence would feel wrong. They are not background details. They are the walls of your world. The first real question. Around age 9, you finally ask your mother what your father actually does for a living. She is composed and elegant, always dressed in European fashion, and she tells you he manages import and export operations in agriculture. You want to believe her. Part of you even manages to for a little while. But you have already seen men arrive with suitcases that disappear into closed rooms. You have already overheard conversations in coded language. You sense that what you are hearing does not match what you are being told. The contradictory education. Your father is obsessive about your academic training. He brings in exceptional tutors. You learn English early, study economics, mathematics, and history at an advanced level. He repeats often that you need to be smarter than he is, that he learned everything through painful experience, and you will not have to. At the same time, you absorb an entirely different curriculum just by living in that house. You learn that trusting people completely is a form of weakness. You learn that power is not something you ask for. You learn that loyalty has a price attached to it, and that betrayal always carries consequences. The first real introduction. At 13, your father brings you by helicopter to a mountain ranch. 40 men are assembled and waiting. When the aircraft lands, every single one of them stands. Your father introduces you formally, explains that one day you will hold the position he currently holds, and instructs them to show you the same respect they show him. The men nod without a word. You barely understand the full weight of what has just happened, but you feel it pressing down on you from every direction. In that moment, something in your childhood permanently ends. The accountant. You meet him around the same period, a thin man in his mid-40s who carries perpetual anxiety behind his designer glasses and never lets his laptop out of reach. Your father speaks about this man with a different kind of regard than he shows his commanders. He explains that this man is worth more than 30 armed soldiers. The accountant sits down with you one afternoon and breaks down his work using a simple analogy. Your father sells a product, he says, but cannot report it to the government without inviting serious scrutiny. So he creates businesses that only exist on paper. Restaurants that never serve food. Gas stations that never pump fuel. Franchises that never open their doors. The money from the real product flows through these fictional businesses and emerges looking completely legitimate. You ask if that amounts to cheating. He smiles with something that looks more like grief than amusement and says yes, but it is the kind of cheating that keeps people breathing. The split life. Through your teenage years, you move between two completely different existences. In Austin with your mother, you attend events, visit shopping districts, interact with people who have no idea who you are. For brief stretches, you feel something approaching normal. Then you return to Sinaloa. Back to the armored vehicles, the armed escorts, the weight of a last name that entire regions of a country recognize on sight. Normal is not something you get to keep. It is just a place you visit. The birthday gifts. At 16, your father hands you two things: a luxury European SUV and a semi-automatic handgun. He explains the difference between them clearly. One is for your enjoyment, he says. The other is for your survival. You train at a private shooting range and develop genuine skill. But every time you hold the weapon, you understand that its purpose has nothing to do with sport, the financial machinery. As you grow older, your father stops filtering what you see. He explains the full organizational structure. At the top sits his authority. Below him, lieutenants manage specific geographic territories. Below them, operational cells move product. But the real architecture that makes everything function rests on three roles: the security chief, the logistics coordinator, and the accountant. Remove any one of them and the structure weakens. The accountant now leads a full team operating from a discrete office in the capital. They look like ordinary employees of a financial firm because, technically, that is what they are registered as. Their actual work involves moving money through dozens of jurisdictions across multiple countries before it returns home looking completely clean. The organization generates billions annually, but the accountant explains the strange problem at the core of it all. There is so much physical cash that some of it literally deteriorates in storage from humidity. Millions of dollars decomposing in warehouses because there is not enough capacity to launder it fast enough. Cash that cannot circulate is useless, he tells you. That is why the process never stops. The parallel identity. At 19, you are sent to study business administration at a private university. Officially, you are simply a wealthy young man from an agricultural family. You have classmates. You attend social events. You have a girlfriend who believes everything your family does is entirely legitimate. But two bodyguards are always positioned nearby. Your vehicle is armored beneath a completely ordinary exterior. You never stay at the same address for more than 2 weeks. You rotate routes constantly. The normalcy is a costume, carefully maintained, the moment the work becomes yours. By your mid-20s, you are actively participating in the financial side of operations. The accountant trains you in the mechanics of legitimizing illegal revenue. He explains layering structures, offshore loan arrangements, and how to use legitimate real estate development as a final cleaning mechanism. You build actual housing developments using capital from illegal sources. Real buyers purchase them at market prices with clean money. The cycle completes itself perfectly. But behind the professional offices and legitimate-looking projects is everything else. Meetings where territorial decisions are made. Alliances maintained through careful balance. The ever-present understanding that competitors do not file lawsuits. They simply remove the problem. The cost of everything. You are in your mid-20s and you have started drinking to fall asleep. Your father notices immediately and warns you that visible vulnerabilities in this world become tools that others use against you. You watch him, 53 years old but aging far faster than that number suggests. He has survived multiple attempts on his life. Almost every person he grew up alongside is either dead or imprisoned. He remains powerful, but the price of that power is visible in every line of his face. You understand clearly that this is your trajectory. Perhaps a decade more. Perhaps 2 if luck holds. And then either a prison cell in a foreign country or something much worse. There are no comfortable endings here. There are only endings that arrive sooner or later. The inheritance nobody would choose. You are the son of the most powerful man in the most dangerous organization in the region. You have access to resources that most people will never see in a lifetime. You are respected and feared by people who themselves command fear from others. And yet you have almost none of the things that actually make a life feel worth living. You cannot maintain genuine friendships. You cannot travel freely. You cannot be known as yourself without consequences. You cannot leave. You were born inside a sentence that began at the moment of your birth and will not end until you do. Everything around you was chosen for you. The clinic, the name, the men with guns, the accountant with his spreadsheets, the helicopter rides to mountain ranches. All of it was already in motion before you existed. And the deepest wound is this. After 24 years inside it, you are no longer certain you would recognize a different life, even if somehow, impossibly, one were offered to you.